Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now this is the ELSA Gladiac 988 GTX. I have no idea if that's how to pronounce it, but this is a graphics card I found during my usual search for interesting and or rare GPUs on eBay. I don't blame you if you've never heard of it, and I hadn't heard of this company either to be honest, but they go back years as a hardware manufacturer and have in fact released numerous modern variants of powerful graphics cards like a 1080 Ti, 1070 and a 1060 to name a few, though their legacy reaches back to the Riva TNT days when they even had specially coded drivers that would mean better performance than their competitors. Starting as a German video card and peripheral manufacturer in 1980, ELSA Technology AG filed for bankruptcy early last decade, which led to the formation of their Taiwanese subsidiary ELSA Technology Inc. in 2003. They also operate under ELSA Japan Incorporated that has run independently since 2002. It's under that company name that the Gladiac 988 was created. So what is it? Well, before I reveal all, let's do things a little differently and check out the performance. Maybe you'll be able to guess what it is from the familiar performance figures, if the aesthetics haven't given it away already. So I bought this card simply because it had an unusual name, and as you probably know by now, I love collecting uncommon hardware and components that you might come across and think, I've never seen that before. So I started off with a game that I don't usually test. This is Firewatch. Now when this first came out, I absolutely loved this single player adventure. A lot of people didn't like it because they felt it was boring and not really a game, but to me it's indie titles like this that really do stand out among the tide of AAA releases, and I think this is an absolutely fantastic one to play, not only if you've never played it before, but if you have a fairly low-end system as well. I won't give too much away about the plot, but it really is quite a gripping and emotional experience. But all that means nothing if it doesn't run well, so how does this ELSA Gladiac 988 handle it? Well, we had to turn the preset down to very low, and then we saw an average of about 35 frames per second. Now the environment does differ ever so slightly, and this does have a knock-on effect on performance, but you can expect at least 30 frames per second on average, no matter where you are in and around the map. Now our next game needs no introduction. This is of course the instantly classic BioShock Infinite, a fantastic addition to an already brilliant set of games. BioShock Infinite of course is pretty easy to run even on older hardware, and here at 720p with the very low preset once again we averaged 55 frames per second during this level. Now I picked this level because it can be quite demanding on certain hardware due to the amount of things going on screen. Here though, our ELSA 988 GTX didn't even blink and we were able to maintain a pretty solid frame rate throughout. I would suggest that even turning these settings up to medium or high should still allow you a plus 30 FPS average with an old card like this, but to counter the frame drops here I kept everything low so that the performance wouldn't dip too much. I am of course using my Ryzen 5 1600 with 8 gigs of 3000 MHz DDR4 in pairing with this GPU to try and get the best possible performance out of it. Although in the real world this is an unlikely combination, as I'm sure you'll agree. Now in Far Cry 3, perhaps one of the best games in the series, we were able to turn things up to high at 720p resolution here and saw about 45 frames per second during this level. A lot of this level takes place underground and there is quite a lot going on screen, so I wanted to test this card during a pretty intensive situation where there would be lots of explosions, etc. And as you can see I think it held up pretty well, once again despite the lowered resolution. Far Cry 3 I'm sure most of you have played by now, but if you haven't, it really is a fantastic one that will run on a plethora of older GPUs and CPUs as well. Now in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion we could have probably got away with 1080p resolution here again, but I selected 720p with the medium texture size here and we did achieve a solid 60 frames per second. I had VSync on, as you can see by the 60 FPS limit here. I'm not sure if the Elder Scrolls Oblivion is capped to 60 frames per second anyway, I don't believe it is, but if you want to maintain a pretty solid and smooth frame rate, then capping it to 60 FPS will do the trick just nicely, because you won't see any high frame jumps above that figure, and you won't see any major drops in performance, which can make the whole experience feel a lot smoother, especially on an older card like this. Now, I did try Crysis and Fortnite too, but unfortunately both of those crashed. Crysis fired up to a black screen and then crashed back to the desktop, and Fortnite kept informing me that it had run out of video memory and that I needed to lower the settings in order to continue. But this was all to no avail. We couldn't get Fortnite to run on this old card, which is a shame because I have had it running on similar older cards in the past. So typing this card's name into Google reveals nothing but Japanese results, unsurprising considering ELSA's origins. What is easily discovered though is that this card is the Japanese version of the 8800 GTX, a card considered by many to be one of Nvidia's most legendary releases. By the looks of things, it never saw an international release, as I can't find any reviews from any European or American websites. In fact, there appear to be no web pages written in English about this thing. So I guess maybe over 10 years after release, we might just be the first ones to look at it. How does this card differ then from a regular 8800 GTX, a card that we took a look back at in the middle of last year? Well, actually that's where things are a bit disappointing. You get the same 575 MHz core clock, the same 768 MB GDDR3 VRAM, same memory bandwidth, same shader clock. I'm sure you get it by now. Everything bar the cooler is on par with a stock Nvidia GeForce model. What you do get though, should you come across one of these, is a card that will make most of your PC enthusiast friends say, "Wow, I've never seen one of those before." And sometimes that sentence alone makes a GPU like this worth owning, even if it really isn't capable of that much. Now, I like to make these videos not only because I like older hardware, but because should you ever come across one of these cards in the wild, you hopefully will have a reference point to look back to if you're wondering what on earth it could be. In this case, it simply turned out to be an 8800 GTX, but there are a few strangely named cards out there that may leave you wondering what they actually are. In the case of this one though, well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I wouldn't go as far as to call this a rare card, because it may, for all I know, still be quite common in Japan. But there we are. This has been the ELSA Gladiac 988 GTX review and look back. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like on it. Leave a dislike if you didn't. This will certainly be a card that I add to my ever-expanding uncommon video cards collection. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.